been lied to. Things that you suspected have been outright denied, and you have been disarmed because of that. That is the wound of Sidereal Pisces, a water sign. The wound of water is being disarmed of the capacity to protect yourself. And because you've been lied to about who you are, because you've been lied to about the power your identity holds, you have been disarmed of the very thing that's going to protect you. And I promise you, you are going to be looking to all of the marginalized identities that you perceive yourself not to be for guidance and direction. All right, hey everybody. Oh my God, let me tell y'all something. It's been way too long since I've done an official reading live with my look, with the setup, with the vibes, with you. I'm so excited. So we are here today for a reading for the new moon in Sidereal Virgo. Our word for today is, you know we can hear you, right? Where did that come from? Well, if you like me and you have the 2022 Sidereal Astrology Guide, you will know that in the fill in the blanks part of this guide, which is in the back, and we get to March here, it says for the full moon in Virgo on the 18th, hearing the facts clearly. They've called the age prior to the age that we're in now the age of information, the information age. And it's when everybody got access to the internet and things went digital, and in a lot of ways, access to knowledge that was normally gatekept behind the walls of institutions has been democratized and freely available. But what has not been democratized is the capacity to understand complex information, the capacity to interpret all of the information that we have access to, right? I've talked about this a lot on Twitter, where we are at this place where people think because they have access to information, right? They think that they have the capacity to comprehend that information. It's a special kind of humility that people really don't want to comprehend or really don't want to accept. People don't want to accept that they do not have the capacity to comprehend complex information. They think that if they can read the words and maybe kind of understand some of the individual words, that they have the complex prerequisites of knowledge to comprehend and interpret and to transmit that information to other people. So whenever we have something happening in mutable signs, which are Sidereal Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius, the question is, how do you know what you know? How can you be sure that what you know is accurate? How can you trust that the information that you have access to is accurate? How can you trust that the source that has interpreted the information given to you is accurate and trustworthy? The gift of mutable signs is discernment. Discernment is knowing who to trust, what to trust them for, and when you should trust them. Because you know you can't trust everybody for everything at all times. There are some people you can trust for some things at certain times, and other times you can't trust them. There are some people you can trust for certain things, and other things you can't trust them for, right? You feel what I'm saying here? So the real question when we are dealing with mutable signs is, do you trust yourself? That is the ultimate gift of all mutable signs, self-trust. Self-trust is not I'm relying purely on my own wisdom, purely on my own knowledge or experience. It's that I know when my capacity to understand something, where my ability to comprehend something has reached its limits, and I need to find someone else to get the answer from. Self-trust is about, I know that based on past experiences, I should have a healthy amount of skepticism when I am listening to this particular person talk about a particular topic. See, in this day and age, we think in binaries and black and whites where self-trust is like, well, I know what's best for me. Actually, sometimes you don't know what's best for you. Sometimes your capacity to trust yourself has been undermined to the point that you can't tell which way is up or down, and you're constantly looking outside of you for information. Sometimes your capacity to trust yourself has been overinflated because you've been abandoned and you've had to find out things on your own. If you look at the image that I posted as kind of an advertisement for this reading today, you'll notice that in the image, there was a series of illustrated people, some who visibly appeared to be handicapped or disabled, some people who looked relatively normal. Now, we know that there are people for whom their disabilities are a part of their appearance, and these are people who are likely to have that face value discrimination against them because, oh my God, look at him, he's in a wheelchair. Ew. Oh my God, look at them. They have a stick. That means they're blind. I wonder if they're deaf too, right? These are the kinds of things that people who have very visible disabilities hear. And then there are people who have invisible disabilities, or ways that their capacity to move freely in this society have been compromised. Maybe this is someone who has just undergone chemotherapy, or someone who has fibromyalgia or lupus, where you can't always see the visibility of their disability. So when I say to you, you know we can hear you, right? What I am proposing with this statement is the way that our identifying categories, the race, the gender, the class, abled or disabled, sexual identity, the ways that these identities shape and form not only what we hear, but whether or not we think those things actually apply to us. There's a way that Sidereal Aquarius, where Mercury is right now, where Jupiter is right now, and those are the two planets that are like in conversation around this full moon. Those two planets are in Sidereal Aquarius, about to come together. They're going to conjoin and meet on the 21st of March. There's a way that Sidereal Aquarius comes around to a realization of their identity by pointing out what they are not. Oh, I'm definitely not white. I'm definitely not straight. I am definitely not disabled. I am definitely not poor, right? And in this world of nots, in all of these ways that we other groups of people in order to define who we are, or we other ourselves in order to define who we are, we miss an opportunity to really see ourselves clearly. Why do we miss an opportunity to see ourselves clearly when we define ourselves in terms of what we are not? What that often means is that there is a line of demarcation that convinces us that we are somehow separate. Other times we come to this way of saying what we are not because we have not been seen, because we've never been validated, because we actually are invisible to ourselves. This is a really, really, really difficult gray area, because the gray area says that, well, because I'm not visible, because I'm not being recognized or validated, because I'm being ignored, it must mean that I don't exist. It must mean that I'm irrelevant. It must mean, here I go shrinking, self-deprecating. In this time period where we are confronting so much information and having to hear words that we're not even familiar with hearing, where we're having to hear terms that we don't have the right context for to understand, how do we know which ones apply to us? Right? Now, Full disclosure, when I looked in the 2022 Sidereal Astrology Guide and I saw that the fill in the blank for this full moon was hearing the facts clearly, and I was pulling together my graphic and came up with this, we can hear you, right? What was really on my mind is the fact that we often use identity as a means to establish power dynamics. And in the age of COVID, power dynamics are defined by those who have the privilege to avoid infection and those who don't. This is a binary of categories that actually is really false. This black and white, those who will get infected, the immunocompromised, the disabled, children under 5, those on chemotherapy or immunosuppressant drugs, versus those who are generally healthy, and those who got 3 shots, and those who can afford to stay home and work. These are binaries that make us miss the messages that are meant for us. And the messages that aren't meant for us, we still hear them. See, when they get on the news and they say, oh, only the disabled and immunocompromised and those who decided not to get vaccinated have anything to worry about. The disabled and the immunocompromised and the parents of young children who cannot be vaccinated, we can hear you, right? These folks loud outside. But we can hear you, right? We can hear you erasing and discarding and devaluing us. We can hear you saying that our lives are indisposable. We can hear you when you say, even outside of COVID, that giving trans children gender affirming care is child abuse. The children can hear you. Why is it that when we speak in this way, we speak as if we're whispering to a private group of people in our private group chat about, oh, don't worry about it, I've got my 3 shots, I'll be fine. Or, man, luckily I don't fall in that category of people. We can hear you, right? And do you know, just because you identify yourself as not being disabled, as not being immunocompromised, as not being a child under 5, as not being a trans child, that that's a false binary. And the fact of the matter is, your refusal to be into solidarity with the weak, with the poor, with the trans, with the disabled, with the immunocompromised, leaves you vulnerable to the very thing that you think that you're protected from, right? It leaves you vulnerable. Oftentimes, those of us who have multiple privileges are like emperors who have no clothes, right? We speak with such authority and sureness that our power will protect us. But the rest of us can hear you, right? Should we walk around as if we have not heard you? Should the disabled and immunocompromised scroll past your ableist tweets as if they cannot hear you? Should the parents of young children who are not protected by vaccines, when they hear you say, I'm glad to get rid of this mask, should they behave as if they did not hear you? Can you listen and hear the messages that you think don't apply to you? Can you hear the relevance to you? How do the intersections of your identities make you feel like you're exempt from the institutions and systems and policies that are oppressive to disabled people, to trans youth, to people with uteruses, to children under 5? How do the intersections of your identities, your loudly proclaiming what you are not? Oh, I'm not poor. My housing will never be in danger of loss. Oh, thank God I'm not disabled. You know we can hear you, right? Shouldn't you be a little bit embarrassed? Shouldn't you just be a little bit ashamed at how easily your identity is a belief system that is weaponized against you? I say that phrase a lot, but it just becomes more and more and more and more true as time progresses. That all of these ways we stratify and define ourselves is a power play, a power dynamic, right? It's a power play, it's a power dynamic, right? Oh, luckily that doesn't apply to me. Recognize that your inability to see yourself clearly not only makes you weaponize your identity and your body against marginalized groups, it makes you ignorant to the fact of your own marginalization. And even if you do not say it with words, your actions speak. Even if you do not articulate it publicly, the reality of what you mean is clear. You know we can hear you, right? You know that when we watch your Instagram stories and we see you out and about maskless, you know we can hear you, right? Whether or not you think you're communicating something clearly or directly, you know we can hear you, right? I don't know. I think that it's time to pull some cards. I just want to say that some of the things that we need to be paying very close attention to right now is what is not said, what is not articulated, what is left out. Because in there, the truth hides. In there, the truth sits when we listen for what is not said. Taking things at face value and accepting that things are exactly how they appear to be. There's another side to this, though. There is what I call indiscriminate distrust. This is suspicion. This is withholding trust as a means of retaliation for being lied to. When we are wounded in certain ways, it's very easy for us to turn our wounds into weapons that we use against other people, right? If we are lied to, if things are omitted from us, if truths are denied to us and withheld from us, it's very easy to carry around that skepticism until it calcifies into suspicion. And now, not only do you not trust anybody, you haven't even developed the nuanced discernment to determine when it's safe to trust. What I do know is What I do know is the gift of Sidereal Aquarius is self-determination. And I have a right to define myself for myself, independent of the gaze of those who think they have power over me. And let me tell you, the day is coming when those we have silenced and erased and spoken over as if they are not in the room, as if they could not hear us, they're gonna rise up. And I need you to decide today, right now, what side you're gonna be on, because trust me, you don't wanna be on the wrong side. If you think you wanna protect your privilege of an able body, trust me, it's only a couple more weeks before the COVID catch you too. You understand? And then you're gonna be looking to the disabled to tell you how to navigate the disability system here that is a piece of shite. You are gonna be looking to the disabled organizations and advocacy organizations trying to help you fill out your paperwork because you can't work anymore. I promise you, you better get into solidarity right now today, because it's gonna be too late a little bit later. There's a whole world that exists independent of the identity that you grasp onto, because you identify as not disabled, as not trans, as not a parent, as not a child. And I'm telling you, everything you think you are not, there is only just a click of the clock before you are. So get into solidarity today. Stand with. Do not stand opposed to, adjacent to, or outside of. Stand with. Be one with. Identify with those you think are everything that you are not. I've got Afro Tarot 2 today. The card on the bottom is the 9 of Staffs. This is a wall of defense. This is a barrier, a fortress to protect ourselves. And the real question is, what is the danger? What is the danger that we protect ourselves from? Part of the mutable sign thing of how do I know what I know, that gift of discernment, is about the context that informs how we interpret the information that is given to us, the context that might be left out of the information that is given to us. And so in the spirit of being disarmed, it's like, how do I know what is actually dangerous if no one is telling me the truth about the threats around me? What am I really protecting myself from? One of the things I've seen over the past 2 years that has exploded in a kind of cult is this idea that fear itself is the thing to fear, and I must protect myself from fear mongers because the fear mongers are going to make me afraid, and I cannot be afraid. Being afraid is so bad, it's wrong. Oof. Protecting yourself from fear is just a way to deny the truth of the real danger. Fear is meant to protect you. Fear is meant to alert you to the fact that there is danger. You must do something to protect yourself. But oftentimes, when we get into this place where we're fearing fear and denying fear and saying that anyone who tells us the truth is just fear-mongering, we often come to that place out of a sense of powerlessness to protect ourselves. And so let's start there, friends. Let's start with the truth, with the fact, the reality that there are so many things that are dangerous to us that we can feel powerless to protect ourselves. And so oftentimes we just give up and we say, oh, well, I'm just not going to be afraid because being afraid is for suckers and I ain't no sucker, so I ain't going to be afraid, right? Instead, we say, you're just a fear mongerer. No, friend, I know that it feels like danger is coming from every side. I recognize that. Do you know that? Like, let's just be real here. We've got climate disaster. climate change. We've got war and rumors of war. We've got pestilence and disease. We have the police state, high crime rates, threats of houselessness, one paycheck away from destitution. Yes, my God. My God, there are so many things to fear. But I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Survival is meant to be a shared burden, not an individual obligation. So I know, I know the overwhelm is paralyzing, right? Because you've been convinced that it is your solo individual responsibility to protect yourself from all of the threats and all of the danger. You know that, right? You know that there have been an intentional indoctrination to convince you that of all of these dangers, you solely alone, you cannot count on your neighbor, your parent, a friend, a lover, the government, who you pay to do these kinds of things for. You can't count on them. It's your responsibility. So I totally understand why you've decided to erect a fence that protects you from your own fear. But what is the feeling that you're trying to feel instead? Instead of fear, what is it that you're trying to feel, right? Because to protect yourself from fear is something that you'd rather be feeling. And I'm going to let you in on another secret. What you're doing is called numbing. Numbing is like, oof, don't like the feeling of a dysregulated nervous system that's got me feeling like I got to fight, flight, fawn, or flee. And so I'm just going to decide I don't want to feel that anymore. Maybe it is feeling like if my thoughts create my reality, I can just stop thinking thoughts of fear. And then the fear will disappear. I will not attract fear to myself. Let me tell you something real quick. There's a whole reality that exists independent of the ecosystem of your feelings. And it's best that you get acquainted with that. Because here's the other piece. All of those identities that have been marginalized because you've decided that that's not you, right? Those are the people who have borne the brunt of the danger that you have been protected from. So what your privilege really is a weapon that keeps, for example, the disabled as the infantry, the first line of defense from the threat of COVID. Push them out in front. Let the population be called. Start with the paralyzed. Start with the cancer patients. Send them out in front and let them be our first line of defense against COVID. Does that make you feel less scared? Does it make you feel less afraid to believe that you are not in danger? Is that the truth? Two of discs. This is cute. Listen, Mama is working with what they got here, okay? Mama is totally working with what they got here in this two of discs. She said, I'm riding a bike. Two of discs is like the Two of Pentacles. It is recognizing the limitations of the resources that you have. And because of that, you figure out how to work with what you've got. Part of me is hearing and feeling this idea of the resources and the languages that our body has to communicate with us with. What is the language? What are the dialects that our body has to communicate to us. Fear is a part of that toolkit. Fear is a part of the resources that our body has to communicate to us with. This is my question for you. Who does it serve for you to deny your own fear? What comes up for you? You don't have to believe it. Listen, you don't have to believe it right now, and you don't even have to agree. But right now, just say it. Man, I'm scared. You don't have to agree. I'm not trying to change your mind right now. I just want you to say the words like an exercise. Just say, I'm scared. Ooh, that's scary. Ooh. The thought of a tornado or hurricane or flood taking away my life and home, that is scary. That's not for real. That's scary, right? Now, if you say it's not scary, ain't nothing I can do for you today. You might be a little bit too far gone for me. If you can't, see the possibility that, that might be scary. It's the uncertainty. It's not knowing for sure what's going to happen to you. So we can just protect ourselves with them thoughts. That would never happen to me because I am not. I promise you, your I am not is not going to protect you from reality. And I think that these cards are making very clear that it's best you get acquainted with the tools your body has available to communicate to you with. Because the season that we're entering is one where we cannot take things at face value, where we cannot take the data at face value. We are entering a season where things are not as they appear. We are entering a season where what we are told has a large amount of facts and truth withheld. We are entering a season where there is a vested interest in disarming us of our capacity to protect ourselves. I know, you just trying to have your job, make your money, stack a little coin, eat, travel a little bit, go to brunch on Sunday, hit a little day party on Saturday, and, hopefully work from home on Monday, right? I get it. It's a simple life. But understand that those comforts and conveniences come at a cost. And you know what happens when the infantry is gone? Every single company after that, the next group, they become the infantry. The infantry right now is your disabled loved ones, community members. The infantry right now are trans youth. The infantry right now are people with uteruses in Texas. The infantry right now are children in schools. The infantry right now are the people who bag your groceries as they try to unionize, the factory workers that make your food, package your goods you order. They are on the infantry right now. Their efforts at protecting themselves and honoring their fear in a way that allows them to move into solidarity with those who share the injustice of the sufferings they're experiencing. They are the infantry. You may find yourself a few rows back. Maybe they ain't called your number yet. Get acquainted with your fear. It lives in your body. And in order to hear it, you have to acknowledge it. You're gonna need it. Trust me. You're gonna need it. You need it now, to be honest. That's my word for today. Thank you for joining me today. You just got some divination for liberation. I know this is not what y'all think y'all gonna get when you hear somebody talking about astrology and tarot. Talking about disabled people in the pandemic. What the hell is she talking about? You heard exactly what I said. I meant what I said. I said it with my chest, and I'll repeat it again if I have to, right? Make sure that you share this video with your friends and loved ones. I love it when y'all make clips and tag me. Do all of that. Okay. Sidereal Maven is doing a giveaway. Make sure you follow Sidereal Maven. Follow the instructions on their page to be one of the lucky people to win a printed and bound Sidereal Astrology guide. So if you missed it, there's that. And then me and Winter will be hosting a review session for January through March of the 2022 Sidereal Astrology Guide. We will be doing that the 26th of March, so stay tuned for our official announcements of that. And I think that's it. Only other announcement that I have is I'm working on editing the content from the Essential Guide to Sidereal Astrology Transits lecture. Very good stuff. That's gonna be in the shop soon. And I think that that's that on that, my friend. All right. Deuces, my friends.